Hello there! Are you having trouble writing your CV for job applications? If so, this is definitely the right place for you. Welcome on board to the first episode of Personal Profile Booster on resume or CV writing. In today's sharing session, we will be featuring two commendable speakers, Ms. Kimiku from Robert Walters Recruitment Agency and Puan Zeti from Halim Hong and Kwek. Let's hear what they have to say.
Hi, so my full name is Zeti Noridaya binti Mokhtar. So you can just call me Zeti. I have been in the HR industry for plus minus about 16 years. I graduated from University of Putra Malaysia with a degree in Human Development, minoring in Family Law. And then straight out of school, I joined in HR department with a MNC oil and gas companies. So majority of my years of experience are in oil and gas. Had a bit of experience in the consulting industries, and then now I'm totally changing my industry experience into the legal industry. The experience of HR I have been doing for the last 16 years, mostly generalists. I've done some recruitment part. I have done some very specific roles that, within HR itself. So yeah.
Yes, I'm currently a recruiter, so I help our clients recruit for candidates who come from a legal background, whether that is recruitment for law firms or recruitment for in-house counsels in different companies. Previously, before I was doing recruitment, I come from a legal background as well. I did my CLP, I completed pupillage, and then I started practicing as a litigation associate.
A resume and a CV, on a layman's term, it's kind of the same. Let me just differentiate of the difference between these two documents. So it's basically in terms of the length, the focus of the documents, as well as the content of the document. Resume, in terms of length, is normally about 1 or 2 pages, maximum of 3 pages long. Whereas the CV is much more longer and much more focusing on the person's experience, on the profiles, and more deep diving into the person's background. In terms of focus, resume highlights more on the skills, achievements, and experience, whereas the CV will really focus more on the individual's entire career. On a normal basis or on the eyes of a layman would not have any difference. They would not see these differences, but the terms of resume and CV is kind of used loosely. So to me, it doesn't make any difference that much.
A CV or resume, typically both these terms are used interchangeably, right, in Malaysia. These two are actually descriptions of your professional experiences. Right now, why is it so important to write a good CV? I would suggest not to encourage the process. Take your time and put in the proper content and structure so that you can put your best foot forward. The reason being is because a CV is the first impression that you're going to make in a job application stage. And in most cases, the CV is the deciding factor, whether or not you even get an interview. So it is very important to do it right. To be honest, there is no one size fits all, and there are different common formats for different industries. So for legal specifically, the preference is actually towards formats that are clear, structured, have consistent formatting, and that is easy to follow through the different chronology of your experiences. Now you may be thinking, what does this look like, right? So some CVs have like different short one-liner personal statements. Some CVs have a photo. Some CVs talk about their hobbies, or they even include many other personal details like your date of birth, your IC number, your home address. But really, to be honest, the best format or the key things that you should highlight in your CV is only 3 things. Number 1, your contact details. Number 2, your education summary. And number 3, that will be your list of curricular activities, achievements, or experiences. A good guide is generally to keep it between 1 to 2 pages. I have seen CVs which are like 5-page, 8 pages, and normally a lot of times this CV is very long and it contains a lot of information that is not very relevant to your application. And by having such a long CV, right, it will also dilute the reviewer's attention away from the key points that you want to highlight. So good to keep it short. Another thing to consider when thinking about length is how far back in history do you want to go back when you write your CV? Do you want to talk about your experiences in primary school, for example? For uni students, now when you're all in university, I think a good guide is to start from experiences high school onwards, as those will be the most relevant and current as well. So things that you have done maybe in like Form 1, Form 2, you don't even need to talk about that.
There are several formats with regards to how you want to write up your own resume. So in my preference, in my own experience, I would prefer what you call it as chronological format, or I would use the term as storytelling. So it will start from something like from who you are. So this is where you would mention about your name, your birth date, if you want to share that, your background, your personal background basically. And then you would then share also in terms of a summary of your key qualification or your skills, or what are your aims in applying this particular position or with that particular organizations. And then you would then move on into sharing about your background in terms of your education background. So some would ask me, to which point do I start? Do I start from my UPSR, PMR and whatnot? To me, the best is at least from SPM onwards. So it could be SPM, it could be IGCSE, it could be what else, UEC. So, but at least from your secondary education onwards, then that will be good. Then you just put in if you have any your matriculation or A-level or your diploma and your degree, so on and so forth. From there, then you move on to your working experience. So starting from your current working experience and moving backwards. Try to find as much experience as you can when you are in your university. Get involved in a lot of activities. I think there are a lot of extracurricular activities that you can participate, whether it could be coming from your own faculty, it could be coming from your own residential college. Even if you were to go out and do your own kind of activities, volunteering activities. So those activities are actually what you'll be able to fill it into your resume. When we look at your resume, we see that you participate in all these activities. We understand that you are a capable person where you would be able to divide your time between your studies as well as your extracurricular activities, sports, leadership skills, leadership teams, camps, whatever. I mean, be involved in a lot of those kind of activities, and then you would not have anything short to say in your working experience. Also, a very important thing is that nowadays a lot of bigger firms or bigger companies, they are using ATS, automated tracking system, or a recruitment system. So by having a structured resume, it's easier for the ATS to capture the keywords that has been input by the recruiter themselves. So it is more structured, it's easier for the system to read, and it's easier for your resume to pass through the system then.
But I think it's very relevant to if you're in a legal practice, right? So in legal practice, a lot of times, again, you are required to be clear, to be direct, and having a standard black and white template will be able to help show that. I think other than talking about the style or the presentation, what's more important is to focus on formatting.
Whenever possible, try to focus those that would actually bring up the best out of you. For example, any kind of achievements that would actually focuses on your leadership skills, or for example, in the legal industry, so you have your moot competition.
The best would be to choose the most relevant experience depending on the position that you are applying for. For example, if you're applying to a law firm, experiences that showcase your writing skills, research skills, your speech, or even your analytical skills would be quite suitable. So these experiences would be, for example, highlighting your strong academic results, your participation in moot competitions, or even titles of the different legal work that you've done. For example, if you are on the other hand applying to companies for internships, what would be useful? Maybe you can look at your extracurricular activities then, because activities or involvement in different committees would show your exposure of skills outside the classroom and make you an all-rounded candidate. So for example, for internship applications, something good to look at would be maybe leadership positions that you have held in your societies, or even participation in business case study competitions. Yeah, so the best achievement to prioritize would be the ones that is actually most relevant to what you're applying for.
But anything that could highlight that you will be best fit in this particular position. So don't be embarrassed to share your achievements. Share as much as possible. If possible, in any part, if you could quantify those achievements, would be better still.
Something very important to bear in mind here is you need to remember that whatever you put in your CV, you need to be able to talk about it. You need to be prepared that you will be asked about that experience, and you need to be prepared and have some points that you want to share across. Right? Okay, so now going back to understanding what can give you the edge, right? Now, I'm not going to lie, academics is still very, very important, especially coming out of university. Because as a uni student, your main or your primary objective is basically to get good grades and to graduate, right? So no employer is going to say, okay, I don't want to see you if you come to them with a first class degree or results. The next thing they will then look at is, okay, your grades are good, now what sets you apart from other people? And this is where your other achievements, your other experiences, this is where these will actually be considered as well. Now, you don't need to play the volume game, you don't need to have like 10 different experiences. It's good to just focus maybe on 2 to 3 and do it well, and do it well enough that you can actually talk about it. Then that would actually set you apart from other candidates.
The usual highlights would be, we will try to look for relevant experience, of course. We can't run away from that. And also, as a recruiter who may not be coming from a legal background myself, so I will try to focus more on the keywords that has been given to me. For example, they want somebody that has experience in the doing industrial land transaction, somebody who has some M&A experience, IP experience. So those are some of the words that I may focus and zoom in directly when I read through your resumes. I will then look into the achievements that you have achieved during your university days. So I will just look into what kind of team experience that you have been exposed to, what kind of competition that you maybe have entered into. I can't really say what are the usual highlights, but these are the things that we would normally focus into.
I've heard from so many employers, and a lot of them actually talk about the same thing. What they talk about when they meet candidates, what they like about a candidate is that candidate's ability and willingness to learn. This candidate is able to show that they have an open mind, they are able to take on new perspectives, they are curious on learning new things, and they are able to absorb all of this and make it their own experience. So that is quite an important soft skill.
This is a very tough question because if I were to say that we only focuses on the experience or activities, then we would forego on the qualification, the first qualifications that would actually entails into you coming to the job industry. I remember one of my mentors used to say having a degree is like having a ticket for you to enter the career world. So having a good degree does help. That would be your first cut point to be filtered through to be a candidate for any positions.
Okay, so this is a really tough question, and to be very honest, I don't think there's a right answer to this at all. It is really dependent on so many factors, and it's very subjective. So it really depends on what is the role that you're applying for, who is the hiring manager, meaning the one who is reviewing your CV, who is going to be, the person that you're reporting to. It is also dependent on what are the expectations of the role when people consider who is a suitable candidate. So it's very hard to pick which one will prevail. But we all know that the world is increasingly complicated, becoming increasingly complex and demanding. So maybe by having academics itself may not just be enough. if for example, if you're a book smart, if you really have very good grades, I think it will still be very helpful if you can have a little bit more of these extracurricular experiences or internships to share and talk about. And of course, if you are a very, very strong leader, you are very active in your committees, your societies, just make sure that you're not failing as well.
And that marks the end of our resume and CV writing video. Do remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share to the people you think will benefit from this video. That's a bye for now.